Okay, so we're back with another chord progression here. A thing I like to have us warm up with in jazz guitar class is an autumn leaves. We do the arpeggios. I'm still kind of working out the exercise with the chords, but maybe that'll be worked into our regular warm ups. But for now, I'm just going to kind of make this as like an exercise for people trying to get different chord shapes in under their fingers in a very musical way. Um, so far we did kind of just hanging out on the same chord, changing the quality. That was a good first step. And then we did chord scales. Then we did a blues, which focused primarily on these shapes right here, dominant sevenths. But now, this next progression is going to use all of these, except for the six chords. Sorry, but these four chord types. So let's look at this progression real quick. Let's see. Actually, let me switch. Great. And go to this guy. Let's go to vertical. Let's clear this out. All right. So the first key. So in Autumn Leaves, it's a very famous tune. It's a very common tune. People starting to learn jazz will work on. Let's talk about what's going on with this. So let's say a common key you'll play this in is B flat. So let's say B flat, right? Here, there's a common bass motion that you'll see in a lot of standards. So chords tend to want to move in fourths, and that's what we see here. The only exception is between the 4 chord and the 7 chord, which is a tritone. If you don't know, a tritone is a fancy way of saying, in our case, it's a fourth that's a little bit larger. So, like say, that's a fourth. Here comes the bride. If I raise the second note, that's a tritone. We would call that an augmented fourth. I don't want to get too deep into the theory. I can do that in another lesson. So, but for our sake, let's just say all of these shapes are going to be fourth-like motion. So let's look at B flat here. Rather than this, I'm just going to say this is, I'm going to do dots. All right. So the way this works is typically when you comp, you want, if it's just you and another guitar player or you and a vocalist, you'll want to put the bass note on the low E or the A string. Now, obviously, if there's a bass player, then there's different voicings we would do for that because we don't want these low notes to get in the way of the bass player. Or if you're playing with a piano player and they're like doing a lot of bass note stuff with their left hand. But assuming it's just a duo where it's on you to kind of create a nice full bed for the vocalist or whoever's playing with you to feel supported. You're good going with those chord shapes on that first sheet where the bass notes are on the low E and the low A, or on the A string. So here's how this works. This would be B flat, right? If I go up a whole step, there's 2. That's going to be our first note of the progression. So imagine 1, all right, so 2, 3, 4, 5. There's your 5th note. So as it turns out, it's on the next string, same fret. Thing that helps us here is that guitar is tuned in fourths, except for these 2 strings. The G and the B string are tuned to a major third, but every other string is tuned to a perfect fourth. This really helps us when we're comping. So let's see here. So I'm going to put a 2, 5. Let's change this to 1. You could put a 1 here, because that would be a fourth. But again, we're wanting to keep on the low E string or the A string. So actually, if I go down an octave from here, that's what this is. There's another thing called like inverted intervals. So basically, like if I went up a fourth, whatever the interval is, if you subtract that from 9, that gives you what would be going down. So if you could go up a fourth, or you could go down a 5th. Again, that's more theory-based stuff. That's a trick when you get into learning intervals and stuff like that. But so 4th up, or 5th fifth down. And I always think of a fifth as a power chord. Or was that no chord? I digress. Power chords are fun, right? I definitely started off as a rocker before I found jazz. I still like to rock occasionally. You wouldn't. You might be surprised. But all right, so 2, 5, 1. Go up to the 4 chord. That is also going to be a fourth over. Now, everything has been going great, but now it's time to throw a wrench into it. Because remember the tritone, right? The devil's interval. So the way a tritone looks like on guitar is it's just a diagonal. So there's where your 7's going to be. There's your 3, 6. And just to kind of make it into a loop, I added a sharp 1 diminished, because also we could use a diminished chord. So now that we kind of got this, let me switch this out. Here we go. Let me get our jazz boot camp back. So okay, so we're going to need a minor chord with the root on the low E string. So we know that if we're in the key of B flat, we need to find a C. C is the second note of B flat. So that means 8th fret, and we're going to use this shape. So we'll do 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to switch to the 5 chord. Actually, let me start with that before we go into the chords. I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's just look at the bass motion. 2, 5, 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, sharp 1, and then repeats. More times. It's really important just to kind of get those bass. Now let's fill in the chords. So 2, it's going to be a minor 7th. The 5 chord is going to be a dominant 7th. So that's an F7. So F, A, E flat. Then we go to a major 7th for the 1 chord. So that's B flat, A, D. 6th fret, 7th fret, 7th fret. Over to the 4 chords. So let's see if I can. So we would 2, 5, 1, 4. 4 chords are going to be major 7th as well. So now I'm using this shape right here. Now when we go to the 7 chord, if you remember, that was a half diminished. So we're going to go to our aisle here that has the minor 7 flat 5. So that's going to look, for our purposes, that looks exactly like a minor 7, right? So this same shape up here, we're using it down here. And then, even though the 3 chord normally wouldn't be a dominant 7th, we're borrowing this chord. So this would be, this would be called a secondary dominant, or a 5 of 6. So, so there's a lot of ways we can use chords to lead the listener to a particular chord, right? The most common case is a 5-2-1. You've probably studied that in classical theory. Well, you can do that for different chords. So like F7 to B flat, that's very like, they pair nicely. The F7 kind of naturally wants to resolve to B flat. D7 wants to resolve to some kind of G chord. It could be a major chord, it could be a minor chord. But the dominant chord is leading your ear to that G. So since we are in the key of B flat, G is not the primary chord. So, I don't think they call it primary dominance, but to think of the term secondary dominant basically means like a dominant chord that is targeting a chord that's not, the root or the tonic, All right, and then we got so and there's your G minor 7. If I go up to, let me find a diminished shape, there's our sharp 1, so I'm using this shape. So let's recap. So we got 2, 5, 1, 4, 7, 3, G minor, 1. All right. So kind of just looking at this motion here, if I were to kind of like summarize this motion, it's like you kind of start here and you go over and it kind of zigzags. It goes all the way up to here and then back. So that's kind of your loop. You got kind of like a cross, down, cross, down 2 frets, next string, across, So that's an example of when it starts on the low E string. Let's do an example where the 2 chord is on the A string. So another common key that Autumn Leaves is played in is G major. So the 2 chord of G major is A. So let's see here. If what we got here? If that's the 8th fret, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. All right, all the way up here. So I'm going to say this is our 1 chord, right? And we're going to build it out from there. So if I go up a whole step, there's your 2 chord. Now, if you remember, we can go up to a 4th to the 5, to a 4th, the distance of a 4th, but we want to keep it on the low string. Oh, I guess it didn't like that, huh? Oh boy. All right, 1, 4 could be over here, but we're going to put it down there. Now, if you remember, between 4 and 7, there's your tritone. All right. If I had higher production value, I'd put a lot of echo on my voice. Tritone, tone, tone. And then 3 is going to be here, and then 6. And now your sharp 1 is going to be here. So we're seeing a similar motion. So where before the 2 chord was here, we were doing this kind of zigzag thing. Now we're starting on the 2 chord, zigzags up to the 5, to 1, 4, come back diagonal, and then you keep kind of going down this road. So I kind of think of this as going down in power chord. Right? So that would be kind of like A to D, G to C, F sharp to B, E, and then I can go up a sharp 1. So let's look at our chords here. So if we start on the A string, we're going to do this shape right here. See if I can get in closer. There we go. So we're going to do this shape for our A minor. And then we go to D7. We're going to use a dominant 7th shape. Right? So my first finger's on the 10th fret. And then we're going to go to a major 7th. There's your G major 7th. Goes down to the 4 chord, which is also a major 7th. Now we got our half diminished shape. So the bridge goes to here. 7 half diminished, or 7 minor 7 flat 5, 3 dominant, or, you know, our 5 of 6, a secondary dominant, and then E minor. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. And to do diminished, up here there's the sharp 1. So A minor 7, D 7, G major 7, C major 7, F half diminished 7, 2, 5, 1, 4, 7, 3, 6. All right, do that real quick. 4 beats. 1, 3, 4. So now that's 2 ways to play this chord progression. So we had B flat, we did G major. I think that's a good spot for right now. I don't want this lesson to get too long. That's a good place to start. There are chord progressions that you might have to switch it up to. You might have to combine different spots, but we'll leave that maybe for another video. I just want to, I think for now it's good to just focus on this progression that starts on the 2 or on the low E string. 5, 1, 4. Do that again. Oh, sorry, major 7, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. All right, then to do the second one in G major. Now here's a cool opportunity. We can try to combine both of these. Let's say I wanted to keep going down the neck. So we found G major here, and then but G major is also down here on the 3rd fret, which means the 2 chord is right there. So where we left off, I was like at E minor, and I was jumping all the way up here to do like a G sharp diminished. What if I played the G sharp diminished here? So again, that shape is going to be that guy. My root on the 4th string. And now I can do that pattern like we learned in B flat. Only difference is now this is going to be the 5th fret. All right, so it's 2 chord, go up to the 5 chord, 1, 4 chord, here comes that tritone. Now this gets interesting. I could just do an E minor, but you see how that sounds different than the other ones? Let's say I want to keep that same quality. So I ran out of neck, right? This is where having 2 versions of these chords comes in handy. So let's say, I can't play it on the low E string. I guess I can go all the way up here. I could do that. Or I could go back up to E minor, where my root is on the A string. So doing this, and then I can loop that again if I want it. 2, 5, 1, 4, 7. So that's why it's important to like learn both of these, because you can kind of see where you might need to jump from one or the other. You know, I taught you these progressions in a key that helps you see the whole thing up the neck. But yeah, there might be a moment where, you know, you can't go any farther down the neck, and you need to find that other chord somewhere else. You know, this lesson's already getting a little long, so I'll leave it there. So to recap, you can just do the regular chords as a warm-up. You do chord scales, you know, how we went up and down the scale. And then we did a blues. That's a good like first song form. And then finally Autumn Leaves. And I say Autumn Leaves is the goal we're after, because it really is kind of like a good, you know, it's a way to learn all these chords, but in a very musical way, and in a song that you're likely to play at some point if you're getting into jazz guitar. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, if you need anything, you know, have any requests for me to explain something that I did in this video, you know, leave a comment or shoot me an email. Let's see, let me get up here. Yeah, so just shoot me an email or write a comment. You know, right now these videos I'm just sharing with my students because, as you can tell, I'm still learning as I go along. But you know what they say, you can't wait for perfect. So I'm just trying to get in there and just get going, and you know, these videos will get better as they go along. So, but in the meantime, hope it helps. See you around. Have a good one.